free. I didn't know we had to do that. So it's just, that's what that is. So hello.
Hi everybody. Mic test. Can you hear me? In the back?
This thing is on. Should I just get the canoe in the water? When I was asked to do this, I thought I was just asking him questions, and I found out later that we're asking each other questions. I was like, oh no, oh no. But I did bring some things, if you don't mind, and maybe you guys are aware of this. I found this at the bookstore.
Yeah, that.
For children's books, Shiny Happy People, and I know you didn't know about it.
I didn't know it. I mean, I'm sure I signed off on it at some point, but I don't remember.
But what's great about it, it's on the end, it's about a message for children, and it says it's a perfect vehicle to share a loving and positive message of inclusion for children of all ages. It's like, so it was chosen for the great message it sends to kids.
Oh, look at that.
Isn't that nice? And then
take it. It's the first thing I turned to. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of appropriate. That song was written for children, so it's great.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was actually, interestingly, not too many months ago, Ricky Dolenz from...
For you.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. We did the New York schlep up here, so...
You can have just take back when we're done, because I have more stuff.
Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees came to Athens, Georgia, and he had recorded with Michael Nesmith's son. For those of you who don't know, these are two of the original members of the Monkees, a band, a television band that influenced me greatly when I was a child. And he and Michael Nesmith's son producing recorded several R.E.M. songs. And one of them was Shiny Happy People. And I couldn't believe the insanity of that, because without the Monkees, that song would not exist. It was basically us, really stretching what we do as songwriters to try to include really 1960s bubblegum pop.
This is not planned. Right here is written Mike Nesmith. I swear to you. Look, Mike, so that you know that I want to be dishonest. Mike, it's part of, and the late Mike Nesmith. Unironically, the biggest Monkees fan I've been, and had a crush on Mike Nesmith from 1968 straight through when I got to meet him at one of their last shows at the Beacon Theater, biggest thrill of my life. And they learned how to play their instruments. That's the drag about it, is people accuse them of being a fake band. But and Mickey Dolenz, great singer. Hello?
That's not a band, right?
That's a beat. Oh my God, my notes. My notes. I'm not great at this. I'm so sorry. I'd be great at a filibuster, yes? Yeah. And I can see that point by the time I leave the stage. Because I'm incapable of getting anywhere succinctly and with clarity. And if I had a podcast, which I don't, because it's not a civic obligation, I think I'd call it Pardon My Tangent, and there's been a murder. But this is one of the things I wanted to discuss with you. Oh my God.
Well, first I want to say thank you to everyone for coming out tonight. Thank you for being here. And thank you to the Tribeca Film Festival for having us. This is really cool. And I see a couple of real t-shirts, R.E.M. t-shirts, and one that's a bootleg, but it's really cool.
I still miss R.E.M.
It's really good.
It's Charlie Brown.
Yeah, it's Charlie Brown.
You don't have to miss them. There's Spotify now. My production Spotify.
I don't do Spotify. You don't give enough money to the artist.
Thank you for that. He said he doesn't do Spotify. You don't give enough money to the artist. It's true.
But there is ways to do it.
There are.
Vinyl is much better for the environment than streaming. Streaming is awful.
It's just that
Awful for me.
one of the things why I read it was like that the thing about, for me anyway, with R.E.M. when I went to college and I saw you at Brown University in the early 80s, and the lovely flowing locks, and I think it was 82 or 83, and like probably many of you, the first time you discover what used to be called, I guess, college radio, or anything left of the dial, then it was called indie, then alternative. But the first time you hear it, if you're open to it, if you're a discerning listener, I'd like to think, it changes everything. And for me, I went to Providence College. Don't ever do that. WBRU, the Brown University station, we could get. And the first quote unquote like indie song I heard there was Numbers with Wings by the Bongos. And then also Chronic Town was being played. And it's oh, I know I'm bad at this. Are you guys going, she's not good. For Chronic Town.
I like the bongos.
That Numbers with Wings, it was the first thing I heard on BRU,
Yeah.
and then every other song, and a little bit of quote unquote indie music was coming in because MTV was on and they didn't have a lot of content, but Mike Nesmith, one of the pioneers of that type of medium, of the video thing, and he had a meeting with the people that went on to start MTV, this is true, and they said it'll never work, and then we just don't do it. Can they hear me? But no, not you guys, I was pretending the MTV people. There was not a lot of content, so they would have to fill the airtime with these indie videos, like there's a lot of them were coming from England and stuff like that, and so you could hit like the Split Ends and other things like that, and there's something that hits your ear if you've been raised with just AM, FM, if you're open to it, and your music, I think, is like that for a lot of people, and it's like, when I was younger, Tuesday Afternoon by the Blue Oyster Cult, Ticket to Ride, anything by Mike Nesmith, What Am I Doing Hanging Around in particular, Love and Spoonful, stuff like that. It hit, I can remember that, because there's this sweet spot, you feel it. And I think your music does that for people. And I was wondering, what was the sonic sweet spot for you, that melodic thing that makes you feel rather than, does that make sense, you know, when you were younger?
Yeah, I mean, I love melody, and you know, I go to music as I go to most art forms for to be emotionally moved, or to be stimulated, to be challenged, to explore things that I might not on my own discover. And it, you know, as a musician, I mean, we didn't really know what we were doing. Mike and Bill were pretty well-trained musicians. They knew how to play their instruments. Peter did not. I wanted to be a singer in a band. That's all that I knew. I didn't realize that I had to like perform and write songs and do interviews, and you know, even how to hold a microphone. So when you first saw us in Providence, I remember playing maybe the same show. There were like 8 people there, and it was you know. But we played a show and we did our thing. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Oh, it wasn't really a question. It was more.
You threw me into
it was
the
more
table.
about that. There's something, and like for me with Chronic Town in particular, the Million and Boxcars, and then how prolific. If you're saying you didn't write songs, it was like year after year after year. Murmur, Sitting Still, and then I always thought the song Laughing. You were saying Lighting.
Oh yeah. Well, there is a lighting in there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
So that was a dream. That song was a dream that I had, where it was one of the dreams that takes place in the future, where there's a lot of water, and it's always a little bit scary, but not so scary that you don't want to be there. And there was the famous statue of Laocoon and his 2 sons being devoured by giant snakes, right? But I changed the gender of Laocoon from male to female just because I was 21, and that's what you do. And yeah, I just the whole lyric of that song is me describing a dream. You said Boxcars.
I actually didn't know that until I read Murmur from the 33 1/3 series about that story you just told.
Is that in there? Is that in there?
That explains that story you just told.
Okay, all right.
You know the 33 1/3 series about music? There's one called Murmur that's good, that explained what you meant. Which now I know. You can have that. There's a toad.
Thank you, Jeanine. We actually spoke a little bit before tonight, and she told me about this book, and I actually didn't know that there was one. I'm super excited that someone did a 33 1/3 on R.E.M. It's really cool.
Well, there's a lot. How I got into it was.
But am I repeating myself?
No.
I already told that story?
No, well, you should tell it, because you even though when you said it, you're like, right, like people know that story about the devouring and the son. But Meat is Murder by Joe Pernice is how I got into it.
Okay.
And the Pernice brothers, like your band, there's something about you feel like the melodies, and that's for you.
Thank you.
And I feel like it's interesting to me, like when you hear music like yours and things in that genre, I don't understand a lot of times when people respond. Have you ever thought this way, like sometimes music that's very popular, and you're like, what do they like about it? How does that person sell out Madison Square Garden? It's just the strangest thing to me. There's nothing to latch onto. And I don't think it's subjective. I think it's objectively true that some music is very bad. Very popular. And I always want, like, it's to me, like, and when you get involved with left of the dial music, your whole trajectory of your life changes. If it's new to you, like if you're younger and you discover it, you start meeting people more like you. You start, it's a community is created by this type of music. Because like in Rhode Island, the Living Room, Lupo's Heartbreak Hotel, other clubs, you would meet like-minded people who were into those types of music, and there was a way people dressed and a way. And then they were reading Howard Zinn or Noam Chomsky, like that whole thing. And it's a type of person that's open to it. And I'm assuming, even though you were raised by a military family, as you told me.
Yeah, Army.
Army family. How did you come to be you? How did you become you?
Well, the music that I responded to as a teenager was music that really was, I think probably I would describe it now as ecstatic. And I can count on one hand the songs that inspired me and piqued my interest that were on Top 40 radio up until the CBGB days in punk rock. And that really provided me with a whole new library of things and things to explore, and of themes and of influences, and then the music, from, I mean, I can't actually think of a band that wasn't involved in the early days of CBGB that are not in some way insanely inspiring, and they're all very, very, very distinctly different, and to have that as like a course in what is possible, pushed me as a 15-year-old to decide that that's what I was going to do. I found my tribe. That's me. Of course, I was also exploring my sexuality as a teenager, as a preteen, and figuring out that I was really different. Not just was I different the way that I knew I was different, but I was also really different in terms of my sexuality. And where do I go with that? Like what, I came from a very modest background and a quite regimented way of thinking about the world and how the world is divided and how things happen and who makes them happen and who doesn't, and etc. That said, I have a very loving family and I had a wonderful childhood, but growing up in the military was a very different way to look at the world, and I knew right away that I kind of did not fit in. Like I was already weird, and I was already, even before I knew why, I was being picked on and bullied and what have you. So I had to kind of create a version of myself that was that would get me through the week without being destroyed, but also represented who I was. And it was really through music, and it was really through that music that I found what I thought of as my path to self-realization and to becoming what I knew I could become. Now, a naive teenage dream of what it is to be in a band and to write music and to perform and to whatever travel is completely radically different from the reality, which is insanely difficult and a whole lot of work. And so, we honor those who did that work and who stuck with it, whether it was through ambition or not knowing where they belonged and feeling like they belonged in this place. I think I had a healthy dose of both of those things.
Well, you're in the 0.1% of bands that not only make it, but huge. You're being inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame tomorrow. You're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but you have managed to be not only very good, but very famous, which is not always the case with people. And oddly, you reach, like U2 does and other bands, the sweet spot of the bro culture too, oddly, because that's how many people you have, which must be interesting for you. That's like the one kind thing about them, I guess. Like oh, I like R.E.M. But it happens to some bands. And you strike me as a quiet, shy person. I don't know you, but I remember when I saw you, you were very shy.
Yeah, we did a TV thing together.
Oh, yeah,
during
I'm
the
talking
Iraq
about
War.
at Brown too.
Oh, yeah, oh, okay.
A very shy person. Wasn't it a very hard, like, to be the lead singer of a band, how does one overcome this?
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I just did it. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I don't play an instrument. I'm going to be the singer. And I think I liked, the spotlight part of it. Until it happened. And then I was like, what do I do? This is, it was a lot. I am shy.
But
somehow when I get on
very
stage, it doesn't,
difficult,
like,
very mean.
when I have those guys behind me, I feel elevated, and I feel supported, and I feel not as, like, my vulnerability is there, but I'm somehow in control of it, right? I don't think I've ever said that better. Yeah, it's there. It never leaves. Yeah.
But were interviews just painful, like
Horrible. I mean,
constant,
yeah.
constant?
MTV was like disastrous, and Peter and Mike are really very well spoken, and they know everything. They're encyclopedic about music, so people loved interviewing them. I just had hair down to here, and I would just like mumble into my knees, and like the original shoegazer kind of guy, and yeah, and I am still very insecure about my education and my ability to express my thoughts. I have them. They just don't come out the way I want them to, and I have to really think hard to make them come out as I intend.
And the
I just said that.
I think you did great. And the way you write, which is different, like.
Well, I write like I think.
Yeah, it's different. And were you always writing prior to even being in a band? Were you keeping journals
No,
and things like that?
I've never kept a journal in my life, and I've tried, but I don't. I keep my calendars since the mid '80s. I have all my calendars on paper, and they're quite beautiful to look at. I think. I don't know what's going to happen to them, but I've never. No, and I wrote pop lyrics, and that was it. And even the early days, Murmur and. There were themes, there were things that I was writing about. I talked about the dream for laughing. You mentioned the song Boxcars. I lifted that from the scene in Elephant Man where the carnival has to pick up and move of the night because something's happened and something bad is going to happen. And so there's this whole scene about boxcars leaving town. And that's what I wrote that about. So there are, in my head, I can see more than hear or understand from the words what's there, but it doesn't always make at all linear sense, even to me.
So is it like visual, conceptual, and then you're just putting down?
I see music more than I hear it. I honest to God, and hearing it moves me. I love a major to a minor because that's the universal thing. AI has, of course, totally picked up on that. That's the universal way to make people cry. And it doesn't matter what culture you come from. If you go from a major chord to a minor chord, people are going to respond emotionally. And of all people, actually, Laurie Anderson years ago was playing with that. She was playing around with that from the very beginning. As an artist who was using music as one of her mediums and a platform, she studied music theory, I guess, and realized like you can apply these certain rules and achieve a goal that you're trying to achieve. That's not how I hear music, and that's not how I write music. But I'm trying to write music now. I'm trying to finish this fucking solo record. And it's not. It's really. Oh, thank you. That's really generous, but you haven't heard it yet. So stop. It's not what you want. But it's very good, and so far, and it's only half written. But it's daunting to have R.E.M. as the bar that I feel that I have to rise to, and that's a real lot. We did some fucking great stuff, and I can objectively look at our canon of music and the legacy of our songs, and that's why tomorrow night means so much, especially to Peter. I think he really, really is very moved and excited to be accepted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame.
As quite rightly. I mean, but the amount of material put out, like I said, like from 82, 83, 84, 85, year after year. And so if you weren't writing prior to that, you guys just got together and it was like just coming out and coming out and coming out and coming out.
Can we put a cone of silence over the room just for amphetamines?
Oh, I was a fan. But
we were in our
just
20s. We were
very prolific.
Well, and Peter is very driven, and I was very ambitious, and Mike and Bill, are amazing songwriters, and I had these three guys that were writing music and throwing it at me, and we were just going for broke every single time. And we stumbled and we fell on our face many times, but I'm really proud of those moments. Even the ones that are still to me just screechingly like nerdy or horrible. I'm thinking of Can't Get There From Here. It's an okay song, but it's not me. It's just we were trying something out. I do too. And if someone's wedding song, I'm sorry. I just have to. We tried all kinds of different things, and that was kind of how we pushed ourselves. We never wanted to lock into something and repeat it over and over again. There are artists that do that that are really amazing, but the ones who I really truly, as a fanboy, and I am ultimately at the end of the day a complete fanboy, and I'm 64, so that's a little embarrassing. But no, it's not embarrassing. I'm a fanboy man.
You're a fan man.
Can I trademark that? But I think, maybe I probably speak for everyone here, we're all fanboys of some kind, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be music, it can be lyrical.
Or there's fan days. Fan days. That's not very woke, saying fanboy. Boo, cancel. You say what you want. There's, I'm so sorry. And also, you're an artist all the way around. You have also a book, a photo book.
Yeah.
That.
It's better than the one before, I'll say that.
And so how did that, were you always interested in that, or is that, as you evolved, that came in?
Photography hit me at 14, music hit me at 15. So yeah, I was taking photographs as a 14-year-old. I took a course in photography, and for whatever reason, I need to talk to someone about this or ask them, but we were working with very young children, like a kindergarten age. And so my first subjects actually were very young children, kindergarten age. And my parents had a flood, and all those photographs are gone. I was managed to pull a few moldy ones out. And they're quite beautiful, and they're extremely, naive. And I was 14 taking pictures with a Nikon, but photography really spoke to me in a way, and it's, for me, I've said this before, but it's kind of like breathing, it's just very easy for me to take a picture and then to say, well, that's really good, or that means something to me, but it also might mean something to someone who doesn't know who this person is or doesn't know where this place is. Music is such a much more powerful medium in a way. I mean, photography, if we're talking about Lindsay Addario, the war journalist, photojournalist, who's amazing, and who I had the opportunity to meet and now befriend. She wrote the book, I can't remember the name. Because it's
Google, can somebody Google?
Because it's Lindsay Addario, she's amazing. And like war photographers, are incredible. Why are we talking about this?
I don't know, I think 8 hours ago I brought something up.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
But
sorry.
music, so yeah, the point I think was that of all the mediums, music is the one that touches the heart in a way different way than dancing or photography or sculpture or ballet or stand-up, or whatever it is, it's acting, film, music really moves people, and it stays with you. You remember distinctly the moments in your life. You remember the music that was a part of those moments, and so I don't know, I stumbled into this very powerful medium, and I happened to discover a voice inside me, and then I discovered that I could write, and I actually was proud of what I was writing rather than just kind of making sounds, which is what I did to begin with. And I'm proud of those sounds, I'll say that. But I haven't heard it in a long time. I listen to the songs that, for me, have narrative arc, and I think to myself, oh, you're a writer, that's exciting.
No, you're definitely a writer, and I have another book for you. Because is anyone familiar with I guess you could say, a poet named Kate Tempest? She does like tone poems, and the way her writing is, it just feels like it's like here. I just feel like there's ways people write. It's not like the way some bands, it seems like they use a rhyming dictionary to write a song. It's just, and I feel like I want to say, I don't believe you. That didn't happen to you. That's not real. Or it's just a generic love song. Whereas with the work that you do, it's about something, even if you don't even know what you mean. You can project things on. That's like with great literature or great art in any medium, you can kind of put your own thing into it. And oddly, the more specific something is, the more universal, if that makes sense. And I feel like you achieve that. And also the longevity of you guys together. Because I'm assuming being in a band is like being in a marriage. People have said that before, but it's, when you do stand-up, you're by yourself. And when you're in the early days, you're in a van together perhaps, or you have to get along. You have to make it work. Sharing the publishing, I'm assuming, helps a great deal for people making it a long way. And I feel the bands that are equitable with the publishing make it far more than those that don't.
I mean, I think we were maybe a little bit at the vanguard of that, or at least for our generation, to very publicly state that the four of us would equally divide and get songwriting credit on everything that we did. Mm-hmm. And I think we understood, Mike and Peter understood that bands break up over really piddly little shit. Great bands become not great because of infighting, and there were ways to avoid that, and so they set those things in motion from the very beginning. But it also speaks, I think, a lot to, and R.E.M. is a great example of this, I think. I don't think I know. We are individually interesting people, some very eccentric. I'm not the most eccentric in the band. I don't like the word eccentric. It was kind of like something that journalists said through the 80s and 90s that meant queer, and they just wouldn't say that, But so I was the enigmatic or the eccentric. All the E words applied to me. But we were small people who together created something large, and then that large thing became even bigger. And so the sum of the parts, etc., that whole thing. But we really, we really pushed ourselves and each other to do our greatest work, and I'm really very proud of, like I said, even the things that weren't so great, I'm really proud of them.
As you should be.
Thank you.
And do you find when there's time, and actually there's always times of political upheaval, cultural issues, but as it happens, this country in particular keeps moving further and further. The line in the sand keeps getting changed about what becomes normalized. You know what I'm talking about, you're here. You all know what I'm talking about. And when you want to discuss it or write songs about it and stuff like that, is it hard to either not do it or hard when there's pushback for just being reasonable? Like talking about... I don't think I ever wrote a lyric intentionally to be political or intentionally to be about a subject. No, I don't mean intentional. It just is how you feel. It came out of me, and then I was like, is that couched in enough language to be broad enough that it can be applied beyond this moment in history and politics, and also speak to this moment in history and politics. So, is the song "Bad Day" about something particular? I like that song a real lot. I love that song. Thank you. I would have to look at the lyric. I can't remember what it's about. It seems like it might have something to do with the Bush era. Well, I mean, that was rough. Yeah, it was. Woo! Yeah. And oddly, You think that was the bottom of the barrel?
Oops.
Pick up the barrel, there's a new
You know what I
bottom.
can talk about, actually, it's not that song, but another one that is very overtly political to me is Living Well is the Best Revenge. Is a song off of one of our later records.
Did you coin that phrase?
Well, no.
I thought it was Guy Fieri.
It was,
I'm kidding.
uh,
I'm just gonna pick up my papers.
no, I remember after you and I were on TV together talking about
Right.
the
Were
war.
we on Fox News?
You went on to do, I think it was Fox News.
I think we were on Fox News together in the early aughts. Oh,
You went on to lock horns with Bill O'Reilly, and
5 times. Don't do that. Don't do that, Ava. No.
I want to applaud that,
Scratch
Jenny,
that.
because I don't have the.
I didn't either. I used to cry every day. It was awful. I don't even know why I would go there to talk to Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly. And the worst was Fox and Friends, Brian Kilmeade. The worst people in the world. And that, again, that's not an opinion. They're just awful. Oh no, you don't have to. Anyway, sorry, I'm used to standing with the wireless mic and walking around. But it's difficult because also, you know that phrase, shut up and sing, or whatever it is, if you're a person,
I got it a lot.
as if you're not a tax-paying citizen. That's not all you are. So if I'm I do electrical wiring, okay, now I can have an opinion. Do you know what I mean? Like why is it? Because that was always thrown at people, and the problem is a lot of media outlets, especially back then, would only put people who were in acting or music so that they could easily be mocked and marginalized. You know what I mean? There's plenty of people that people, quote unquote, could respect about their anti-war stance or their anti-Bush stance or now anything like that. But it's conscious for the news outlets to do that so that you don't take it seriously. But we were on a thing together. I think we were representing MoveOn.org perhaps, or
right.
Win Without War, something like that. And oh my God, the derision and the shut up and sing type.
Stay in your lane.
And then back in those days, it was actual letter writing. I would get letters, actual hate mail, old-timey hate mail. And it's one of those things that and now with modern, the internet and all of that, there's even more pile on kicking a person when they're down. And I do realize that some people get upset over smaller things because they feel they don't have control over the bigger things. But I just, it's amazing to me the mob mentality that can be ginned up, again, over saying something perfectly reasonable. And the worst part would be when you would not even have said what you were accused of having said. And then it goes like a game of telephone. And then more and more people get angry about things like that. And now you can get away with more than you could after 9/11.
I think stick around because it's about to get a lot worse with AI and with social media.
Oh, that will always be bad. What I'm saying is
Social
we
media
can
can-
freely say things more than after 9/11. But and thanks to things like the Daily Show and things of that nature, obviously things can be said all the time. There will always be a segment of people that will either pretend they're very angry about it or what have you. But
It's upsetting to me that we as a culture go to comedy to get the daily news. Like that's super fucked.
Well, we could go to Amy Goodman and others. I mean, there's plenty of, luckily, yes, there's plenty of ways to get news now more than ever, and that's good. But there's also plenty of ways to get disinformation now more than ever. And me being almost 60, I'm not comfortable with all this stuff. I'm a bit of a neo-Luddite, and I'm very pleased that I grew up without surveillance and all that stuff. But now, and you were saying you like taking pictures, but as you know, now nothing goes undocumented. Everybody say, like, you're taking pictures. But everybody, picture, posting. It's worse than the Stasi. No one can do anything or say anything anymore. And I really wonder what it's like for young people growing up under surveillance all the time. And people are just one tweet, one post away from destruction all the time, and that lives on in perpetuity. And then it's all data mining. I don't even know where I'm going with this or why I started saying that. I'm going to stop.
Well,
Why
no,
don't
it
you
just
say
feels
something?
it feels like a lot of things are a lot of the digital revolution is being weaponized to create a base level of just anxiety and stress, and that's a way to manipulate and move into mob mentality and lose nuance and push everything into it. It was George W. Bush, God bless the poor man, but who was like, you're either with us or against us. Well, what a dumb way to move through life, you know.
Well, and also I feel like that there was a lot of people who were their best selves after 9/11, and then they were talked into being more aggressive and all the disinformation. But having said that, it's a tale as old as time. I mean, and actually Rod Serling, you know, Lights Out on Maple Street or what have you. The mob mentality exists with or without the technology. That's just, until the human condition changes, this will never change in people. And we are far more enlightened than our political representatives would have anyone believe. And that's why around the world, a lot of people have the wrong idea about America. Yes, there's assholes. They are not the majority of us, and I'm sorry for the profanity. But, you know what I mean? People misunderstand who we are as Americans because they only see some of the people speaking for us.
We as Americans haven't figured out that politicians work for us, and that's part.
Well, they don't actually. That's the thing, because they don't. They
they're
say they do, but
we have
they
much
don't.
more power than we're given.
Yes. People have.
Than we give ourselves, and I'll move into my public service announcement for the night. I'm sure by a show of hands, everyone here is registered to vote. Yes. And so that's great. I am too. I actually moved my tax base to a state that I felt more comfortable giving taxes to. But it's great to be registered to vote. We all now need to go out and find 10 other people who are not or who need convincing.
But also we have to change the electoral college, because
That's
it's
gonna
been
happen.
true time after time
That's not
that
gonna happen
popular
before
vote
November.
doesn't. And when you look at when Steve Kornacki's up at the big board on MSNBC, and you're like, how can it be so red? Because of illegal gerrymandering and redistricting. That has to change. The electoral college has to change. And unfortunately, Republicans cater through their base to the detriment of society, and Democrats move away from their base to the detriment of society. And Democrats keep bringing a tennis racket to a rugby match time and time and time again, although it's still the better option, voting-wise. But how did Joe Biden and I can't even say his name. I honestly can't say. I can't even use it in other contexts like that. Overrides that. The word. Stand saying it. But Joe Biden, how did that happen? I don't believe that was real. And I don't think, who talked him into it? I don't think he really wanted to come back. And yes, Elizabeth Warren could have won. Bernie Sanders could have won. We're just told that they can't. And then people believe it and repeat it, and there's nothing more powerful than a fixed idea. And Joe Biden, how did that happen? Not that he seems like the worst guy in the world, I don't know, but why would he want to? He's sleep late, stay home, you know what I mean? Like, why are you doing that? And then again, people are like, do you think Trump could win? Well, he didn't win the first time. And technically, no, he can't win, but somehow it might happen again because we haven't fixed the software problems,
Well, he did win.
gerrymandering
He
problems.
did win, like it or not.
But he did. But
the
he
systems
didn't.
that are in place.
But the electoral, but he didn't win the popular vote.
No, of course not. But
So that means.
why would he?
But right, he can't, and so that means he didn't technically. The electoral college is rigged
Well,
to favor.
but it's a system that we have in place now, and it's what we're dealing with now.
Right, but it
To
should
my
be
point,
changed.
We all need to go out and get as many people riled up and excited about voting, holding your nose if you need to, but vote against if you're not going to vote for. That's personally where I'm at.
No, I agree
And
with you.
I'm, you know, I've felt disappointed in my generation. I'm disappointed whenever some new, extremely right-wing, like dumb-headed person who's younger than me pops up and are all over the news. I feel like I failed as a public figure. I feel like I failed as a leader, however small, of my little segment of my generation. And how could this happen? How could we not have already fixed all these problems that I saw in the 1970s? That I took courses from people who were hippies that got jobs as teachers And it was really, really different, you know, and we were taught sex education, my God.
The early
And
70s were actually quite wide open and
It
very
was
liberal
cool.
until
It was
the
cool.
Reagan Revolution came along, and he
Yeah.
didn't win legally either, I don't think. And I'm not wearing a tinfoil hat. It's just business. It's just business.
Those hostages home.
The hostages, yes, he had back channel discussions where he kept the hostages in. But it's fatiguing, I realize, to talk about politics when you care about things, and I know that I'm annoying. I know that.
Hold them weapons.
But the thing is we keep, it's been government by gunplay for years, since JFK and RFK. And don't get me started on Bobby Kennedy Jr. But the thing is we are far more advanced than you would be led to believe. And the system has been rigged. I mean, that's why it was never meant to be equitable, and it's always been a managed democracy. That's just the reality. I'm not being, some kind of an asshole. That's just, like I said, that's most countries and most eras. Power, those that have power seek to consolidate it and hang on to it. That's just, even in student council elections in junior high and stuff like that, that's just the way some people are. But you shouldn't feel that you've failed that person.
Well, I do.
The problem is that person. You don't go to right-wingness in a vacuum. You get there because something's gone wrong. You know what I mean? And then there's sometimes it's very disappointing when an older person who was on the right side of history then goes rogue, right-wing. And I always feel like what happened? What, was it a terrible divorce, or something didn't go well? Because it's always about something else, I believe, when you're, because it's venal, it's cruel. It's a blood sport.
Yeah, I think it's being scared. I think people get scared.
They're scared
And then
willfully.
they get greedy and they want to hold on to what they've got.
Right, but then there's those that have nothing and keep voting against their better interests.
I want to quote Jane Fonda. This is off of Instagram. Thank you, Tamar. I want to quote Jane Fonda quoting Greta Thunberg, who said, "Don't look for hope." And boy, I'm going to screw this up. But Jane Fonda quoting Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg said, "Don't look for hope. Look for action and be an activist, and hope will come. But first, we have to get in it. We have to mix ourselves up. We have to mess ourselves up a little bit. We have to be activists. We have to understand and recognize that we have a voice, and that voice is powerful. Whether it's through boycott, some of which I am okay with, and some of which I'm not. But whether it's through boycott or whether it's through showing up and protesting and just understanding in that crowd of people that you're not the only one who feels this outrage. And now I'm quoting Bob Dole, but where is the outrage? I mean, how did this happen?
But it is here. We're lucky to live in a place where there's actions and protests all the time. In New York or the outer boroughs and most cities, there are people in the streets constantly fighting the good fight.
Yeah.
And we do have a voice. I think now more than ever, people are involved. And I don't like when people say young people aren't. They are very involved. And it's case by case. Many people care a great deal. Many people are involved, and it's great. What becomes very upsetting is, like I said, when you see Kornacki at the big board, or you're like, how is this possible?
I don't know who that is, I'm sorry.
Steve Kornacki in his khakis, MSNBC, the Kornacki khakis. He rolls up his sleeves.
Is he a sports figure?
No.
MSNBC?
MSNBC.
Well, that's what I tell my mother to watch, because it's better than CNN.
Yeah,
But,
and he does all the stuff at the board where he's like, and the results aren't in from Iowa, but they're
Oh, that guy, I know.
Yeah, and he's all caffeined up, and and I think they do call him Kornacki khakis, like he's got khaki pants and he has multiple shirts because he sweats, loosens his tie, and he rolls up his sleeves and he gets in there.
Okay, all right.
But as you know, when you see it, you're like, that's red. It's not true. It can't be true. And we all need to be the change we want to see. Again, Guy Fieri.
Is that the celebrity chef with the...
Yeah, he's the guy with the spiky diners driving
I have a
dives,
few
and he
blind
wears
spots in
board
my
shorts.
cultural knowledge. Okay.
I don't know. He just claims to have coined every phrase that Vince Vaughn said in Swingers. But so I always say, "Oh, Guy Fieri coined that." But I'm glad that you don't know these things, and I feel like a real Philistina that you wouldn't know, and you shouldn't. But it's just and so moving away from this, because like I said, it's fatiguing, and actually oh my God, it's Q&A time. I was supposed to look, I think that's right, from the clock. They did,
We
the
have
clock is
17
counting
minutes
down
and 57
backwards. I thought it was
seconds
gonna
left.
be, is that right? Voice in the sky?
That's right.
It's time for Q&A. Thank God I have
I want Voice of God
Because
again.
I don't understand that digital clock
Yes.
at all.
Thank you, Voice of God.
And I'm so sorry that I monopolized this
No, this is
conversation. So your
fascinating.
Q&A is asking the good stuff.
No, this is a real conversation. It's fascinating. Thank you, Jeanine.
I won't make you take these notes home, but you are taking that tote bag.
Well, I've got a pile of books here to look through. Thank you very much.
You don't want to see my notes. Actually, you know what? Here, good luck reading that penmanship.
Oh,
Yeah, good luck. Good luck to you, sir.
you have a question?
Yes, it's not a question. I'll stand. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to say it's been years. I went to your first concert. I used to have a mad crush on Steve Bach when he worked at the record store.
He's very handsome.
Yes.
Please repeat the question.
And no, what?
I'm sorry. She had a mad crush on Peter Buck. I said he's cute.
Back in the day when I
Everybody
was
loves
going
Steve
to University of Georgia, I lived behind Hardee's. I worked at Grandma Loves Cookies and Company, which was across this. Yeah,
Holy shit. Can you name the R.E.M. song that I wrote about that couple?
I'm high right now, so.
Okay. Oh, I bought some gummies, but I forgot to take them. Damn it. There's an R.E.M. song from our early days that I wrote about the owners of that. I should not say
Yeah,
this.
they moved to
I don't care.
Arizona.
I don't want to know.
No, we fell out, but every time I had a break, I'd go over to my albums.
Yeah.
Because I was
At Wall
dating
Street,
a musician who played with Ray Charles, and he turned me on to jazz. But people would say, no, you want Elvis Costello, the Pylons. And then you would come in every once in a while, and they invited me to your concert at an old church. We crawled in through the back window.
Yeah.
The altar was where you guys played. There was like a kitchen there. And outside was a neon sign that said, Jesus saves.
Yeah.
And the last time I saw you was on a bus, and you were like, hi. And I was like, I'm so I'm saying
Nice to see you again. Thank you.
And Jeanine, thank you. You inspire me, and your conversations hit me.
Oh, you old so-and-so.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I appreciate that the solo record, you're still working on it. One, I would just offer, none of us expect it to be automatic for the people. Like, you don't have to hold it to the standards of R.E.M. Like, we just want to hear you again.
Thank you. Thank you.
And while we're celebrating the songwriting of R.E.M. this week, I think a lot of people, younger people, may not appreciate as much as this crowd does your command of a stage and the live performances. And I wonder, I know this is getting 2 steps ahead, but do you see yourself touring again or doing a solo set of shows?
Did everyone hear that?
There's a lot of young people in the audience, though. There is a lot of young
Yeah,
people here.
I'm only a young 45, so.
You look great. It's so exhausting, to be completely honest, to tour. It's so much work, and I'm a control freak, and so I'm not good at delegating to people. Do something behind me that looks really interesting. I have to like handpick the artists and the filmmakers that I want to work with, and then get into the weeds with them. It's a lot of work, and I just don't know that I have it in me, truthfully. That said, you know, we'll see how the record turns out and what kind of interest there is, and then maybe, you know, maybe something will happen. I don't know. I really like, what's the theater? It starts with a, you can sit down. What's the theater? It starts with a B. Thank you. I mean, the times in my life when the Beacon Theater has been like this pivot point of like incredible, like I have so many unbelievable memories of that place. And yeah, like the idea of doing, I don't know, if I could talk some TV network into paying for, I don't know where I'm going with this, but 5 or 6 shows that I could rehearse, and I could just go to the Beacon and do my thing, and then go to Williamsburg and grab a pizza, you know. That would be nice. That would be nice. Yes.
Are you struggling financially?
I'm not. And I don't like talking about it, but the R.E.M. fans were very
You're
good to
comfortable,
us.
you're comfortable, he's comfortable.
Thank you. Yes, there's two of you, so the guy in the front first, I can't see you, but yeah.
Hi, as an artist myself, I kind of really want to know, like, when creating an album, how do you, because I'm sure you make a lot of different songs, and over when you're trying to figure out, I know, with like label and certain things like that, you might want to push a certain, like, certain narrative for that specific album, but when it comes to like, you have a whole bunch of songs, how do you choose what songs to match with what, and like, just the overall process of like.
That's a good question. I'm overwriting, so I'm shooting for 18 songs. I'll bring that down to 9 or 10, but I just want to write way more than I need. And then if there's an overarching narrative that makes sense to me, then I'll go with that. You know, if I want it to feel, like for me an album, my generation, you look a lot younger than me, but my generation, albums were super very important. You know, it was a world that you immersed yourself in. You would go buy a record, you would take it home, you'd smoke some weed maybe, and you would sit down and you would just look at the record cover and listen, and then you would flip it over and you'd listen to the whole thing again. Like it created, you know what happened to me recently? I was in Vancouver with Douglas Copeland doing this charity event about a month ago, and the hotel that we stayed in had in my suite, and I didn't pay for it, someone else did, but I was like, wow, this is really fancy. It had its own turntable, and then there were Canadian artists as a part of the turntable. So I went through and I found Harvest Moon. I've never heard that album from beginning to end. And I put it on and I was like, wow, this is really fucking good. Like, no wonder we love Neil Young. And what I also realized is that I knew every single song on that record, but I didn't know that they were all on the same record. And I certainly didn't know that record as an album. But it took me on a journey in that I was jet lagged, I was really tired, but I sat in the room and listened to it, and it was really this incredible experience. So I'm trying to recreate that, but the 21st century version of that. Like, I want my record to have an arc, or not an arc even. Although I will say I'm surprising myself. Like, the writing is surprising me. Things are coming up that I did not expect. And I'm not going to be writing Tommy or Jesus Christ Superstar, although I would love to have written that. There are characters that keep popping up in different songs, and so I'm not writing a rock opera, is what I'm saying. And I don't even like the word rock. I never did. But I'm not writing a pop opera. But I'm trying to infuse my idea of what it should be with, like, where we are now versus where I was as a teenager and what influenced me and inspired me, but also bring some of that forward. Yeah. In terms of dealing with the label, like, always own your own work, own your masters. Be careful who you write songs with, because you want to make sure that however the money is divided up, it's fair, and that they're good people. Like, don't lay down with dogs, you get fleas.
Guy Fieri.
There was someone behind you, yeah.
I am one of the young people that is here tonight. I just want to thank you guys both for being here. This is a dream to get to see both of you. 16 years ago, my dad took 5-year-old me to our local record store and bought Accelerate, and I heard the first couple notes of Blue Wells and Best Revenge, and I've never looked back since. So I'm 21 now, and R.E.M's been the soundtrack of my whole life. So
Wow. I'd like to thank the youth of America.
I thank my dad's iPod, actually.
iPod, wow, now we're really strict. That's wow. When's the last time you heard that word? I love that song, and actually, I was talking about it earlier, but I wrote it about Bill O'Reilly, who I fucking hate. And he was the inspiration for it. Honestly, I saw Elvis Costello perform a small set at a charity event here in New York, and it was a point in the evening where people had had too much to drink, and they weren't paying attention to him, and he got on stage because he had to. He said he would do it, and he was furious. And it was one of the most riveting performances I've ever seen. And that inspired the writing of Living Well is the Best Revenge. Yeah, so, but thank you for, yeah, thanks for being
Just
there.
one question.
Oh, sure.
Quickly. So your music always speak to me growing up also as a queer kid in the South. So
Okay.
Still trying to figure out myself then, still trying to figure out myself now. What advice do you have for kids nowadays, queer, not queer, just trying to figure themselves out in this fucked up world that we live in.
Yeah, well, I can't imagine being your age and having moved through COVID and having to watch the whole world unravel and having former U.S. President Donald J. Trump as one of the people who are, are in the media stratosphere at all times. It's completely horrifying. What advice? I don't know that I have advice. Listen to yourself. Don't listen to anyone else. Listen to your parents. I mean, your parents are probably pretty cool, right? Yeah. And if you have friends whose parents aren't cool, and your friends, especially if they're queer or they're different, like give them a warm place to come to, that where they feel supported and encouraged to be who they are. But yeah, I mean, I felt I had a lot of encouragement and a lot of support as a young queer kid, and then I created a world where that was absolutely for me the world that I moved through. I made my own bubble of beautiful people, and I'm happy to still be there. Good luck. Mr. Ball. Sorry. No, you have a hat. He doesn't have hair. So. No, you have hair.
You and I go to the same barber. For me, I'm painfully shy. Hard for me to talk in public. But to that point, I had a follow-up question about performing. How was it for you to watch Michael Shannon and Jason and the guys come together as a band?
Yeah.
Was that an out-of-body sort of
Yeah.
experience for you?
Yeah, well, I never heard so the question is about Michael Shannon and Jason Narducci, is that he says? Yeah. Such sweet guys, they're so incredible, and they're huge R.E.M. fans, and they covered an R.E.M. album at the 40 Watt Club in Athens, Georgia recently, and the whole band was there to watch it. I'd never seen those songs performed before, and a lot of them they're not hit songs, so it's not the kind of thing that people cover. But it was really wild. It was really insane for me to be there, bobbing along in the shadows to something that is every song is like really a part of my DNA. And although sometimes I don't recognize them if they're playing in the radio or in a restaurant, I don't recognize my own music, but the second I lock into it, it's like it's still in there, So it was really wild, and I think they're going to do it again. I think they're excited about maybe doing Fables of the Reconstruction or Reckoning. I'll go.
Just a quick second part of that question, and thank you for answering that. So I really appreciate it.
And Michael Shannon's a fucking amazing actor. My God.
I know earlier in your career, and I've been a fan. I like this young gentleman. I'm 49. When I was,
you look great.
Thank you. But when I was, a kid, my brother was 10 years old. Is 10 years older than me, and so when he was 18, I was 8, and college radio was New Paltz to be big into you guys. And so I remember watching early footage of you guys and going back on YouTube to sort of see your performances. And I know that you started out facing your back to the crowd in those early sort of Athens performances. Was that out-of-body experience for you on your shyness level and your creativity level? Was that sort of heightened seeing someone else perform like that? Was it? It's not really a great question, but did that?
No.
We're getting flashlighted in the back.
Oh, we have 4 minutes to leave.
I don't even know if we have 4 minutes.
I didn't have an out-of-body experience watching them, but I do, as a performer, I would go into a trance state, and that would happen quite frequently, and I wouldn't know what I was saying or doing. I would be reminded later. I always represented myself very well, I think. Although at one point I became obsessed with spitting into the lights. I thought it was really cool. And so there's actually some footage on YouTube, don't go looking for it. But I'm spitting a lot for no real reason, except I thought it looked cool arcing through the light. That's so dumb, I can't believe I just said it. Mr. Hat. Question.
You used the word art
Yeah.
a lot this evening.
Maybe I might have overused it, but
And, well, regarding your album that you're working on,
yeah.
do you have a concept at the end, or is it at the beginning where you'll find your title and do the songs?
Yeah. No, we're talking about art. No, I don't know what I'm writing about. I have no idea. It just comes. And then, the music for me, I'm composing, so that's really different. And I have Peter and Mike or Bill to write music for me. So I'm composing for the first time in my life. That's really daunting. And then it's also a little bit easier than I thought. But it's not but I don't write songs like those guys do. But then the melody comes, and then the lyric is the last thing. And often, don't mean it to mouth, this is horrifying. Often, I'll hear a vowel sound that just seems right for that passage of music, and I'll follow that vowel, and it becomes a phrase. And if I get that phrase, then I have something to work with. The two times I can think of as examples of that are the song "At My Most Beautiful." I got the phrase, "I found a way to make you smile." It took me 2 years of writing to figure out what I would write in the verses. And it was when I landed on the line about eyelashes, counting eyelashes when someone's asleep, and they're pretending like they're asleep, but they're really not. They're watching you fall in love with them. That was when I burst into tears and said, "I've got it." Like, there's a love song that's never been written, and that was thrilling. Right now, there's a phrase, "Time keeps changing," and that's a lot of the record. If anything, is about time and how, particularly through COVID, I'm 64 now. I look great. But by the way, I just want to say before our time is up, if you ever go to Los Angeles, just tell people you look great, and they repeat it, and no one questions it. They just tell all their friends, and then everyone says, "She looks great." A little bit of advice there. But time and how time has, the collapse and shift that's happening, I think really it's not social media as much as the digital, what we're moving through right now. It's not new, it's been around for decades, but time is changing in ways that I don't remember it changing when I was a kid, and when I was a young adult, and when I was a slightly older adult, and now it's really fucking with me. So I'm trying to address that, and I think we have 1 minute left.
They turn me
Do you have a
on.
question?
No, I don't.
Yes.
I
Go
have.
ahead.
Okay.
So
I was
the
kidding.
new album, songs you already heard, are they going to be on this new album?
Yeah, well, some of them.
Some of them?
Drive to the Ocean will be on it, I think. And what's the other one? The first one that came out was about the trans kid.
Brace Your Soul.
Your Capricious Soul. Yeah, that's going to be on it. That's a great song.
I love that
Great
song.
Thank you. I love this song too. You can go on Spotify and listen to it, and I won't get paid for it, but you'll have a great new song to listen to. And thank you everybody for coming here.
Thank you all
Thank you
so
for
much.
Thank you, Ron.